Hello and welcome. Late last year I travelled to an 18,000 hectare cereal and grain property in the wheat belt of southwestern WA. I was invited there by a local fencing contractor, Nick Hearn. Nick was given a contract to install 8 kilometres of exclusion fencing on the property using PickeX Pole Star 600s. The cost of installing the PickeX extension was a bit less than half the cost of installing a full exclusion fence, and that's without including the cost for removing an existing fence. What makes this case study of striking importance is the fact that this is the second stretch of exclusion fence Nick has been asked to install on the property, and the first stretch of 14.5 k's was installed a year earlier in late 2023. Now obviously, being a corporate farm, this is something they wouldn't have done if it didn't make good financial sense and the farmers weren't happy with the first exclusion fence. Now the reason this has been important to the company is that the farm is flanked by state forest along a large part of the boundary fence, which is subject to constant native animal intrusion. The damage done is most evident close to the holes in the fence where animals have gone under, and you can see the counteractive efforts taken to try to prevent this continuing. Now surprisingly, the animals don't consume much of the crop. The bulk of the damage is done simply due to the movement of animals through the crops. Now naturally it's difficult to put a number on the amount of damage done in any given year due to the scale of a property like this and the seasonal variation. Nevertheless, I asked the farm manager to put a number on what he thinks the damage done by kangaroos and emus was, and he suggested a figure of about 10%. Now I will leave you to do the numbers, but 10% is a lot of grain over 18,000 hectares, and if you extrapolate that over 20 years, it will be a significant sum. Management chose to extend the existing fence they had and raise it by 450 millimetres or 1.5 foot in the old measure. The way Nick has done this is by putting pole stars on all the existing star pickets and adding an additional maxi post every 40 metres to both strengthen the fence and help hold up the top line wire. A strip of 790/30 netting is then fixed to the top line wire and the existing netting using Wireman ag clips, wire ties and C-clips. Now Nick has set himself up well to install the fence on his own in a very efficient way, but nonetheless this is not a difficult fence to put up. Although it doesn't stop everything, the reason management has chosen to install the extension is because it is effective at reducing crop damage. Netting has been used as opposed to plain wire simply because it's more effective. In Nick's words, the animals can't see through the wire. And from a human perspective, this may seem somewhat ridiculous because when you look straight on at the fence, you can easily see straight through it. However, when you consider this in terms of an animal without binocular vision, from close up, the extended fence can appear to be an impenetrable barrier. Now this is because from side on, the vertical wires appear to be closer together the closer you get to the netting. And what we can see from camera footage is that there's a lot of time spent by animals stopping beside a fence before they make the decision to try to breach it. Now obviously at night animals don't always see the fence before they hit it. However, an extended fence constructed in this way can easily withstand a high impact load. This is because when you have multiple line wires overlapping at about waist height where most pressure is applied, the overlap becomes a very effective use of wire that also stops smaller animals getting through. Now this is best highlighted by comparison with a section of fence that was built some time ago using outrigger brackets and half a dozen plain wires. Now outriggers from a fence are known to be effective for climbing animals, but you can see immediately from this footage the difference in the effectiveness of the two fences. Outrigger brackets are also a lot more time consuming to install, as the wire needs to be taken off the star pickets and the outriggers then fixed to the pickets using nuts and bolts, which is fiddly to do, especially with gloves on. Now on behalf of Wireman, I would very much like to thank Nick and the management of the farm for allowing us onto the property. It was a great experience watching Nick work. and seeing the way he has set himself up is a picture of ingenuity and self-reliance. If you are located anywhere within 400 kilometres of Mount Barker in WA and need the services of a fencing contractor, we will be happy to provide his details. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch by sending us an email to sales@wireman.com.au. Thanks for your time.